And you can see Foreign Correspondent tonight on ABC TV. Now let's head to South East Queensland. This is the LNP candidate for the seat of Longman talking about this mistake that he's made.
Unfortunately, I made that mistake some time ago, and when it was brought to my attention yesterday, we took immediate steps to correct the mistake, and I've also stuck my hand up this morning and apologised to the defence community. It's a simple mistake that I made and overlooked, and again I unreservedly apologise to the defence community. You know, I tell my cadets that when you make a mistake you put your hand up and you own the mistake, and that's what I'm doing here. Is I think part of what you need to do in life, part of being a person with integrity, is to own your mistakes, and that's what I've done. So I put my hand up and I said, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I've never worn Australian Service Medal. I've never claimed to have served overseas, to have been eligible for an Australian Defence Medal. I have only ever worn the medal that has been given to me, which is the Australian Defence Medal.
This, the seat of Longman, it's got one of the tightest margins, 0.8%. Are you worried that this has dashed your hopes now?
Mate, we'll keep doing what I'm doing. We'll keep out there talking to people. We'll keep executing our plan for Longman, and we will keep working hard to listen to what they have to say and to deliver against that. They'll need to make their own decisions as to how this might affect their vote. All I can do is to be the very best person I can be and to own my mistakes, and that's what I've done. I've stuck my hand up and apologised for it, and again apologise for it.
When you were pre-selected, you were very quick to point out that the vetting process leading up to that point in time was extremely thorough. This obviously undermines those comments. You stand by them?
No, the vetting process was very thorough, Jackson. This is a mistake that occurred some time ago, and again, rather than running away from it, I've stood up and owned it, and let's move forward. I apologise to the defence community. I didn't do this intentionally, and I'm proud of my service. I served in the Air Force. I served for over 6.5 years. I subsequently served as a commanding officer in the Australian Cadet Corps, trying to pass on some of that experience to our young people. And yeah.
How was the mistake made? Do you have any recollection of?
I don't. When you first become a parliamentarian in Queensland, there was a 3-day orientation process, and during that process you get given a swag of papers that you need to fill out, and so I filled them out to the best of my capability at the time. Obviously made a mistake.
Are you suggesting you've sort of mistaken the words like service and defence? Is that what you think has happened?
That's what I think's happened, yeah.
You spoke to the Prime Minister this morning. What did he say?
I apologise to the Prime Minister. This is not the sort of front page news that the Prime Minister wants to see. And I reassured the Prime Minister that I've never worn the medal. I've never claimed to have served overseas. I've only ever worn the medal that was awarded to me, which is the Australian Defence Medal.
Why should the voters, why should the people of Longman have confidence that you're not going to slip up with another mistake like this?
Politicians aren't perfect, Jackson, and I think what's important to people is that they understand that that the politicians are willing to stick their hand up and own their mistakes. And I don't think anyone should expect a politician to be perfect. And the difference is that if you don't try and own the mistake, if you walk away from the mistake, if you try and blame someone else, and I'm standing here saying this is my fault, this is my mistake. I've apologised. I apologise to the defence community. I've spoken to all of the presidents of the RSLs in the electorate of Longman. I've spoken to some of the Vietnam veterans. I'll continue to speak with them to ensure that they understand that this was an honest mistake, and that there was no way ever that I would claim to own a medal that I just wasn't entitled to.
What did those presidents say?
All of them understood and acknowledged that it's easy enough to make, and they all know me. They all know my integrity, and they all know my service, and so they were accepting of the apology.
You have no plans to bow out now?
Absolutely none. Absolutely none.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.
Okay, so that was live from Morayfield, just north of Brisbane near Caboolture. The LNP's candidate in the Longman by-election, Trevor Ruthenberg, apologising for wrongly claiming he earned a prestigious Defence Service medal. Mr Ruthenberg is the former state MP for the seat of Kalanga. He'd listed the Australian Service Medal as one of his accolades on the official Queensland Parliament website. Despite never receiving the distinction, he received the Australian Defence Medal, which is awarded to those who've served for more than 4 years in the ADF as opposed to active service. Let's